Did you hear what said said?
Did you hear what said said?
Did you hear what said said?
And here we go. Sid, what's going on?
All right.
How you doing?
Excited to be here.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Is this your first time on a podcast?
it is.
It is?
Yeah.
Well, it's my honor to have you on. I appreciate you coming on. So today you gave me a phone call, and it was from, just to kind of recap on why we're here. So you gave me a phone call today, and you said that you were, I think, halfway through, or like just like you were into the chapter 7, the recent podcast that I just posted. And you said that something was on your heart, I feel like, that was wanting to, and it has been for a little bit since I pretty much started these podcasts, because you watch them frequently, or the ones that you do watch, and you have something that you want to touch on and you want to talk about.
Yeah.
And that's why you gave me a call and you wanted to talk about a mental health thing, because I was speaking on, Brent and I were talking about men's mental health and what role men play in the family and things like that. And you were like, dude, I have some great points. I have some stuff that I want to talk about. Like I have, I'm not even halfway. I'm not even all the way through it. I haven't even watched it all. And I'm already like, I got to call you. I got to let you know. Right. Yeah. It's so funny because since the first time that I posted part 1, of Said chapter 1, you had texted me and you told me, you were like, said, it was a great podcast. Proud of you for being, vulnerable and stuff like that. I know it's hard. Could probably use a little bit of direction. You gave me a lot of good, well received criticism. And I love that. And I appreciate that. And I'm a guy, so I'm not saying all guys, but most guys aren't very, structured out, and they have these things, right? And, that's why with the podcast, I'm learning, as I go. But now I have you here, and we got some structure going on here.
You do, take notes and everything.
You got notes and everything. So with that being said, you had took some notes down, and we were, it's a current situation that you're currently going through right now, that you recently just experienced. One thing I want to say before we get started is that I appreciate your courage of wanting to come on. It's not easy to expose or to even talk about, because I had asked you had talked to me about, you were talking about, your current situation of what was going on. And then I asked you, I said, well, do you want to talk about this privately, or are you wanting to come on the podcast and talk about this? Yeah. And you said that you'd like to come on the podcast and talk about it. And with that being said, I appreciate you want to come on, because it's not easy and people are going to see it. And that's very brave. So thank you.
Thank you
for that. Absolutely. Yeah. So would you like to kind of dive back into what we were talking about, and pick up on, what started that conversation?
Direction, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's after listening to all of your podcasts, I just kind of like, every time I'm like, oh man, I have this note and I have that note and I have these things, like, I just want to talk to him. I just want to like get on there and like have the conversation, see, how it flows, because I feel like a lot of my mental awareness has come from not only learning from others and getting direction from others, but also divulging into self and finding my own grounding, and what that really looks like in navigating society, and how to navigate society with the mental awareness. And I feel like a lot of people, you get to a position where it's like, okay, well, I feel like I'm mentally grounded, but how do I navigate society now? How do I go about this world with this knowledge? And whenever I heard, especially your last one, I was just like, okay, this is a breaking point. Like, I've already talked to him about coming on. Like, I just need to do it. I just need to reach out to him and do it. And literally that was today. And I was like, you know what? I'll come after work. I'll just make it happen. Like, no more beating around the bush. Let's just do this.
I'm like that. It's been like that. I kind of like whenever, because you asked me like, well, when can you? And I'm like, whenever. Like, I'll make time. I don't care when. Just come on if that's what you want to do.
Really? That's how it kind of goes.
That's how it happens. Now we're here.
Exactly.
And so with that being said, your current experience of what you're going through right now with your current relationship, what's going on in your current relationship to where, because that's what we talked about whenever you gave me a call. So
yeah. So, I mean, I think that, that kind of sparked my, okay, this is time. It's ready. I need to make this happen. But I, holidays and everything bring a lot of things to the surface, and just navigating a relationship where, to give some context, some background on myself, having a child with someone and trying to work on and develop a relationship, and reaching a point of, okay, well, maybe I just need to divulge into self, and you need to do the same, and we need to find this middle ground of who we really are as individuals, and see how that looks in our lives and how we move forward with this that's in the best interest of our child. And hearing your last conversation really brought me to this fruition of, okay, I had a very significant conversation with him over Christmas, and it changed, my perception of the level of my own awareness. And I think that, that's really significant for people, is when you reach this understanding of self, but then you're also able to then step out of self and acknowledge where someone else is, and give that understanding, and still be able to give that person love, give that person support, despite the fact that they're not necessarily where you need them to be in your area, to be in your space, to be able to fulfill the needs that you require, but still be able to say, no, I do love them. No, I do care for them. And they do hold a space for me, but they don't hold the space that might be something that is ideal. Right? So it just...
What did you hear? And are you talking about in chapter 7 with Brent, the recent one that I just posted? Okay. So what did you hear that was kind of like sticking out to you that made you think, or what few things did you hear?
Honestly, it was mostly just grounded on like men's mental health, and like focusing on the fact of, a lot of men don't feel heard, and they don't feel that safe space to be able to open up and to communicate and to share their deep, dark secrets, or, thoughts that they have, or expressions that they have. They don't feel like they can be vulnerable. And, I feel like for a lot of men, it comes from the basis of understanding and, knowing, okay, well, they know me, and this person does have this, safe space for me, and does respect me to this certain quality. And I think that, at least in my experience with him, has kind of given me an understanding that... When
you say him...
This is my son's dad.
Right, okay.
It's given me an understanding that even though we might not be where we had envisioned to be, that we can still build and grow as individuals, and help each other to build and grow as individuals. And I think that comes with a lot of strength and vulnerability, because with a lot of men, once there is the division between the relationship between, the male and the female, once they separate, then the male is like reserved, doesn't speak anymore. Whereas like a lot of times the female will still give and give and give. And yet the male will just, receive and be like, okay, because they no longer feel safe. they've already felt like, okay, well, I've exposed to you who I am in the relationship, and so now I no longer feel safe in this. And something that's been really important for me throughout this process that I've learned is that it comes slowly. You know, we have established our bounds, our requirements, and our standards, and, you know, being that those are understood in any relationship, and that goes beyond just like a mother and father to a child. This could be a friend, a girlfriend, and a boyfriend. You know, there's that boundary between, okay, you are my friend, but you can still trust me. But you can trust me on a friendship level to still be that vulnerable, to still open up. Even though I'm not your significant other, I can still be nutritious to your life. And
whether you're dating or not.
Exactly. And I think that that's also something that a lot of society skews on,
like men to women relationship as far as just strictly friendship.
Right.
They don't see it that way. Society doesn't see it that way.
Exactly.
They find it hard to believe. Right.
And
that a
it's
man and a
inevitably
woman can be right. They think it's sexual.
Exactly.
Like there's no way
you're spending time with this person.
They have to be
for hours at a time. There's no way you're not doing anything with them.
Right.
And it's like, well, no, I know who I am, and I know my standards, and I know what my expectations are that I desire from my relationships. And this is not someone that I envision a relationship with, but that does not mean that I don't care about them, that I don't hold a space for them, that I don't give them the love and the care that I would give to you as my friend, you know, that you would say to, you know, your girlfriend when you're talking about them. You're saying, oh, yeah, like my really good friend, da-da-da. Oh, well, something's got to be going on there. Well, no, something doesn't necessarily need to be going on there. I
think there's a little bit of guilty conscience in that sense, because I know somebody who had that situation, and they were telling me, you know, this person that I'm talking to thinks that they find it hard to believe that I work with this person and I'm not having sex with this person.
Right.
And I was like, well, have you had sex with this person? And he's like, no, we're just really good friends. You know, like we laugh a lot, we go out a lot, we're always around each other a lot, but it's always work, it's always whatever. Yeah. She even brings her guy, whatever it is. And so I said, you know, it's almost like a guilty conscience thing. It's like she probably feels like if she were working with somebody and was always around, that she would probably be having sex with that person. So really, she's not. What she's saying is, or what that person's saying is, if it were me in that situation, I would be
acting different.
You know, so that's pretty much what I feel like when people are talking about that. They're like, yeah, I would.
It's a projection.
And they're not, it's a projection. You know, it's not that they don't find it that it's like, you know, well, you have to be. It's like, no, you think you would be. It's a projection. So you have to be very careful with that. But I think one thing that you're talking about was establishing standards in the beginning, you know, and I think that's one standard that would be established in the beginning of a relationship.
Yeah.
So going back to, with Brent and I talking about mental health, you know, you go through Christmas, right? So you got Christmas Day, so walk me through how Christmas went for you, in that sense, that, because that's what is kind of trickled it into the mental health thing, right?
Because like, you know, it's when you get into these situations, you know, with these required relationships, it's, you know, how do I divulge into this? How do I not just let it be an uncomfortable area of, you know, and this goes beyond just, you know, exes and relationships of having to maintain. This goes into family. You know, when you have a fallout with a family member, or you have a disagreement and now things are uncomfortable, but you still have to be around them because there's family events and you have to go, or you want to go rather. You know, you want to be around your family, but you're required to be around one family member that you don't necessarily want to be around. And I was actually listening to this snippet from a podcast a couple weeks ago, and it was talking about...
Was it said?
It was not. But it could have been. It will be.
Yeah, one day.
It was talking about having talking points. And a lot of the talking points were, how's the weather? Bringing in things that will spur common denominator.
So you're talking about talking
equations.
points with people that you are
required
to talk to,
yeah.
and you're just like, I don't know how to even
exactly.
start a conversation with this
yeah.
person. Like, I don't even want to.
Yeah. And so I found that, like, when I was sitting there and, just he was doing his thing, I was doing mine, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to ask about the weather, and I don't want to talk about something so shallow. So instead, I spurred the conversation of, what's something in your life that you're really excited about right now? And the answer is never a yes or no. You have to respond with something of substance. And so that led into, oh, well, I'm excited about this, and I'm developing this, and I'm, really kind of looking forward to this. And it's led into, so I think a lot of people try to give these surface level questions of, how's the weather? How are you doing? Things that are very shallow, where you could very easily propose something that is much deeper, that will spur much more of a thoughtful mind process, and really feel like, give the other person that understanding that you really do care, rather than just talking about something surface level, and really wanting to know about their life, really wanting to divulge into that. And that is what then led into getting into mental health of men, because I think that a lot of men, well, first of all, starting with women and even men addressing other men, is not knowing how to get into it, not knowing how the direction of where to go. And I think that starts with, the person taking that initiative to be like, hey, how is your life? What is something you're excited about? What is something that is making you sad? What is something that is bringing you joy? What is something that you're really looking forward to? Things that encourage you to be vulnerable. And then when someone does, especially with men, because men have a tendency to not be vulnerable, especially when it comes to women, to spur that conversation. And then when they do expose, they do open, to really be keen and aware of how they're opening and what they're saying, and what key points to focus on, and what things to look at in their response, to be able to say, okay, that's awesome. Can you tell me more about da-da-da-da-da? Can you expand on this? And I feel like it does inevitably lead to a much more nutritious conversation.
Absolutely. I agree. And that's what you're trying to get to. That's what you try to get to that day at Christmas with your son's father. So when he gave you that response, what did he say? Because it's not a yes or a no. It's not like a, hey, are you happy being here right now? Like, yeah, okay.
Not really.
Well, I tried.
Yeah.
So, so what was his response, or did you ask that question in particular?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you say?
Yeah. No, he was. He said, I'm really looking forward to developing. He's been doing his real estate, and so he's about to get his real estate license. So he was like, I'm really excited about that, and I'm also really excited about potentially being able to get into. He's very vague with his responses, so it's kind of difficult in that sense.
I think for people like yourself and for people like me, what I mean by that is that I think our upbringing, not necessarily, but sometimes some people's upbringing, they grow up in that environments where it's healthy and it's okay, and they allow people to talk and whatever.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I wouldn't say I grew up in that one. It was just more of like by the time I think my parents tried to get me to do that, I was already conditioned to not really
do that.
Talk to you.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, they realized, like, I think,
yeah.
Don't want to jump the gun on it, but I had to really grow within myself to realize, like, this non-communication stuff, and it was through experience.
Right.
you don't talk, you don't say whatever it is, you don't, and I'm currently still going through it. I think I'll continue to keep going through it. But men do have I think it's a fear of like how you're going to respond.
Right.
And they're just like worried, like, well, if I say something wrong, will they leave?
Right.
If I'm very open about something, is it going to cause a problem? And in a way, it's kind of like, well, then they'd rather not say nothing at all. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when you're, I don't know, it takes, I think it's like a ground, it's like a thing from the beginning. Like you have to, like the dating stage, because y'all are not together, right? I think that's something to, I think if they haven't got that yet, you're not together with this guy. How old is Royce? How old is your son?
He will be 2 in February.
2. And how long did you and your son's dad, how long did y'all know each other prior to? Or how long did y'all date for?
We knew each other for about 2 months.
Uh-huh.
And it was pretty much the first time we slept together.
And
I got pregnant.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is my child. I'm a believer in what comes what may, and I don't like to see it as consequence. Mm-hmm. So it's a blessing. Mm-hmm. And I'm not ever in a position to get rid of it. Like that's just not something
like abortion.
Mm-hmm. That's something that I stand very strongly on, and others can have their own opinion of it, but that's not something that I align with or something that I agree with. And so, he knew my position, and he knew that I was going to keep him, and it was his choice. I told him, he said, I said, you got 8 months. 8 months to decide if you want to hang, stay around, because once he's here, there's no leaving, because I'm not dealing with that separation.
And what was his response?
Oh, he wanted to stay full force.
Did he?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. We have a very balanced schedule and work things out. I don't know if he finds it as balanced as I do, but I feel like it's really great, and I think it's very nutritious for our child.
So what's balanced? For people who don't know, I guess, or what's balanced in your relationship?
In my relationship, it is, time spent. So because at this age, he's not even 2 yet, he's completely and utterly dependent upon us. He's at a point where he's completely learning upon observation and direction from his parents and those around him. And so what that looks like in day to day is I keep him Monday through Thursday all day. And then Tuesday and Thursday I go into work, so his dad will pick him up around 4, and he'll keep him those nights. And then Friday he stays with a sitter because I work all day on Fridays. And then every other weekend we alternate. So Mondays and Wednesdays are mine, and then every other weekend, and then I keep him every day during the day.
And this isn't court ordered?
No.
This is just
my correlation of what works with our schedules.
Right. So y'all sat down, or y'all talked to each other, and you were like, hey, I want to see him, and you want to see him, and you try to find a balance for that?
For the longest, it was he kept him Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Mm-hmm. And then I kept him every weekend, and then Monday and Wednesday. Okay. And then I got this new job, and I was working every night, and switched it over to, okay, well, you know what? We're just going to get rid of the babysitter, and I'm going to keep him during the day because I only work at night. So there's no reason to pay a babysitter to keep him when I could be keeping him. Mm-hmm. And I could be having that more time with him and giving him the direction that I desire for him. Mm-hmm. And, in light of that, I proposed, alternating weekends and things like that, which he wasn't too fond of. But it worked, and it is working, and it's giving him more time with him, and it's giving me more time with him. Yeah. And which is what's most important, because at the end of the day, the fact that we're both key factors in his life is what's what's the most important thing.
It is. It's very important having two parents there who care about their child.
Yeah.
So he stuck around. At what point did y'all stop? Like, were y'all like living
Honestly,
together, or
no?
so y'all were always okay? So you weren't living together.
No, I kind of set the standard from the get go because I've lived with past boyfriends, and I realized that when I'm living with a man, I'm giving them wifely duties, and I'm not a wife. So I can be your baby's mother, but I'm not your wife. And I'm not going to be your wife unless I feel that you are deserving of me and I am deserving of you. And I, practically knew him for 2 months when I got pregnant. And so it was kind of like it was something that he had proposed. He had been like, hey, like, we're having a child. Maybe we should live together. And I was like, no. No, we'll get there maybe, but we're going to figure this out first. And
what were you needing to figure out?
Myself, most definitely, first and foremost. I was pregnant and I was coming from an extremely abusive relationship. I didn't know in myself what left and right was.
Abusive in what way?
Physically and emotionally. It was a extremely detrimental relationship, and I was stuck in it for about a year. It was with my high school sweetheart. I thought, I've reconnected with the one, and it was just a ball of disaster. But at the end of the day, I can look back off
the wrong one.
Exactly. I can look back on it and feel reassured in the fact that, okay, well, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't have this understanding, this progress, this self-awareness that I do now. So it was a blessing in disguise, a very harsh blessing that decided to lay on me, but I wouldn't be here. And I've made the decision to, have the action to have a child, and took that responsibility, and made me who I am. Because at the end of the day, when I found out I was pregnant, I said full force into myself. I said, I got to figure out where I am and who I am. And because if I don't, then my child will never be who I want him to be, because I can't even give him the guidance that I desire for him if I don't even know what that direction looks like. So
your son's father, how is his upbringing? What was his relationship like with his parents?
His mom was always there, still is. As far as his dad, he was kind of in and out of the picture. I know he worked overseas for a while. I've met him a few times. He'll come in and I'll make sure like my son gets to see him and things like that. But it's kind of a rough dynamic there.
So, yeah, I bet. I mean, if you have somebody who, when you ask him a question, he's very vague, and it just naturally feels like there's something in the past and is why he's not like that.
Right.
And he hasn't taken the time. How old is he?
He just turned 26.
So he's still young, right? Although he's only a year younger than me, but I mean, still young.
Yeah.
Men's frontal lobe doesn't fully finish developing until they're 27. Women progress quicker, and it seems like they're mature, much more mature at a young age, because they technically have to, and they have to have kids, and their bodies naturally produce and grow faster. And men's take a little bit more time, obviously. Look around. But so with him, it's interesting because it's like, well, it sounds like, okay, so back to on Christmas Day, you ask him this question, he gives you a vague answer, and it's like, you don't know him very well. it's only been 2 months that you talked to him for 2 months. Then you had a kid. Y'all were in kind of agreement of like what y'all are gonna do of wanting to be. He wants to be around in the family, and then 2 years later, well, before we go back into what Christmas Day was, how have those 2 years been? How have these 2 years been?
They have been a learning curve, to say the least.
Well, like, when did y'all set those standards of like visiting? Like, you see him. Like, how'd that happen? Like, was it always like that, or?
No, I think that it kind of like once he started to get older, and then we sent him into
Your baby?
his baby. Yeah, we sent him into daycare, or not really daycare. It was a babysitter, and kind of just developed through that. And he started going to her Monday through Friday, when he was 6 weeks old, because I had to go back to work. And then we just kind of set on the days of Monday and Wednesday, and the weekend were mine, and Tuesday, Thursday, Friday were his. And that was how it was for the longest. And it wasn't until recently that we actually switched over to alternating weekends. But our relationship, has definitely had its rocky turns and had its ups and downs and ins and outs. But I feel like, where we are now, it might not be ideal for him, but it definitely feels ideal for me. Because I've worked very hard to be where I am, and finding this grounding in myself. For the longest, I, was completely dependent. I was a dependent person on everyone around me. I searched for relationships and bounced from one to the other, just longing for that connection, longing for that direction, because I didn't know how to find it in myself. And so to have worked really hard to, for those 8 months that I was pregnant, I really tried to make the relationship work. I got to know him. I really divulged into the person that he is, because at the end of the day, that was my son's dad. I needed to know him like the back of my hand, because he's the one person in this world that has a right to my son.
Yeah, 8 minutes of speed dating.
Yeah, literally. 8 months.
Pretty much.
And
so it sounds like.
Yeah, and I love him as a person. I think he's a wonderful person. I think that he has so much potential and so much growth ahead of him. And I think that he will achieve that if he stays on the path that he's on. And I think that he's a wonderful dad. He's a great dad. He's, I don't have any bad things to say about him. I do think that he has growth to be made, but don't we all? And I think that also comes from my own grounding, because myself a year and a half ago would have not viewed it that way. Would have viewed it in a different view. I would have,
What way would that be?
Just a lot more condescending and a lot more hostile, and a lot more like, I'm here, why are they not? When in reality, everyone moves at their own pace. Everyone develops at your own pace. Just like you said a minute ago about, the woman's brain developing sooner than the male's. Even though despite his age, a 42-year-old could be in the same shoes that he is and dealing with the same things that he is, but he's taking the initiative now to make the steps that he needs to. And I think that that's really impactful and really directional, is, knowing and having faith that he will get to that point of understanding and being grounded in himself. And that's something that I told him even on Christmas. I said, I look forward to the time that you are so grounded in yourself that you have the well-being and the understanding to move forward, to find someone that fits you, to find that friends, family, etc., to be this vulnerable with and to open up to like this. I look forward to that for you. And I said that to him.
Does he want that? Does he want to be that with you?
Is that why what do you mean? Be that?
Like, was he there on Christmas Because I know he had showed up. You had mentioned on the phone that he wanted to, or you actually were trying to, was it let him? You were wanting him to be a part of this moment, right? And so, is he trying to? Is it known? Is there a communication line of him wanting to get back with you, or wanting to try to be in a
family
oriented? Yeah.
I think that he's, at least from my perspective, made it pretty clear to me that that is his ultimate desire.
Mm-hmm. So what's the hold up on that?
Because he is not, for me, in a position that I'm ready for. I'm still getting to know myself, as grounded as I may feel, and as lonesome as it may be.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's a necessary turn and a necessary season in our lives to separate from others, to have that division. But I think that it's also a rabbit hole that I think that a lot of people get caught in and don't know how to get out.
What do you mean by that? Like a rabbit hole as in you need to figure yourself out? And
yes and no. A rabbit hole is in you get stuck in the loop of not progressing anymore, but convincing yourself that you are growing and you are developing.
Yeah, it's called, well, okay, yeah. And what do you think? Is that where you think you're at?
No.
Okay.
I think that I'm growing. I see myself in the future finding someone that does, fit who I need and who I desire. And, I think that a lot of that comes from someone else being grounded in themselves the same way that I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of people in our society are not.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's extremely difficult to find,
mm-hmm.
is someone that does have that understanding and that wherewithal and that grounding in themselves. And as he is progressing to that point,
mm-hmm.
I encourage him. I want to be there for him. As I do for all of my loved ones,
Mm-hmm.
And, I tell my friends, my coworkers, anybody that comes into my life, hey, if you need someone to talk to, like, I'm here for you. Same thing I told him on Christmas. Look, at the end of our conversation, he was like, thank you so much. Thank you for talking to me. Like,
mm-hmm.
thank you for saying all of these words to me. It really means a lot. Like, look, you can call me anytime. I'm just a phone call away. Like,
mm-hmm.
I don't care. At the end of the day, I don't care who you are. I don't care what you've done to me. If you call me and you ask for my help, I'm here for you, because
mm-hmm.
I know that even though you might have done X, Y, and Z to me,
mm-hmm.
it's really boiling down to what you're dealing with, what you are going through.
Yeah. So with him, you were, you had mentioned something about there's like a desire that you're lacking there with him, right? A lack of desire. Is that like is there anything that he would be able to potentially change or do to get to that? Because my thing is, like, there's this thing I've learned through this book and through this show. It's called The Maze, that people get stuck in, right? And it's literally what you were just talking about. What the maze is that you feel like somebody has done you wrong, and typically people want to either get back at that person, or they want to it's all about fairness.
Mm-hmm.
They feel like they've been wronged and they want things to be fair again.
Right.
And so it causes a separation. They get stuck in this maze, and during this maze, time is passing by, and all these things you're just not getting it back, because you're stuck. You're just stuck in this, like, this world of confusion. You're just like, it's more self-indulge of, like, you're dealing with your own problems. Like, mm-hmm. you think that, like, oh, I'm working on my mental health, or I'm working on something, but really you're not. You're stuck with quite the opposite. You need to go and address and communicate what the hell is going on with you, so you can get out of the maze. That's how you get out of it, and you're doing it for yourself. Well, with that kind of being said, it's like, is there something that, because it seems like he's wanting to try or wanting to get out of it, but if there's nothing that he can do to try to get what it is that he's looking for, then, how is it that you go about that, more or less? And then I think that would be something of like being straight up, like an honest thing, like, hey man, honestly, I'm like, I get it, you're still working on what you need to work on. And coming out of a year of being mentally abused, physically abused, along with that is emotional abuse. I've heard, I don't know, and I'm not going to make a definitive statement on it, but I've heard people say that emotional and mental abuse is more scarring than physical abuse, because at least physical wounds heal and mental scars are tougher and emotional scars are tougher to get over.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, it's a very true statement.
Okay, cool. I don't know. Yeah. And it may be true to you, and it may not be. Someone else is like, hey man, them physical scars, but I've heard it. And my thing is, like, this guy seems like a good guy. Seems like he's, you even said it yourself. He's a good father. He's a good person. He's really working on himself, has a lot of potential. You're just not ready for it yourself. Right. And I think because this whole thing we're talking about is a lot of mental health. It's a lot of, you're a single mother and you're trying to provide for your child. You're also, it seems, a little scarred because you went through some domestic, personal, abusive relationships in the past, which, by the way, takes a lot of courage to kind of admit that, because a lot of girls don't want to talk about that. And it seems like there's a lot of, although even if he is communicating himself to you, maybe he needs to understand more of where you're coming from, or like understand your past more, which would cause you to be more vulnerable about it, because it's like, well, maybe you are ready. Maybe you're not, but maybe you are ready. You just need someone to listen to you and walk you through that to get you back to that. What's scary is giving, what it sounds like, it's what you're telling me is that it's scary giving yourself to live with someone again, or have that around, or to be, because you're committing. And it seems like that you're the type of person that you have standards for yourself, and that if you're committing, you're committing. Right. But if you're not, you're just going to be back off your distance. Yeah. Which makes sense. It makes sense because it just makes sense. You're protecting yourself. Right. You're protecting your child. And, but at the same time, it's not like you're feeling the way that you feel and you're keeping your kid from him. You're still cordial. You're still letting him see him. I mean, I think that, like, what you're saying, really, I didn't mean to cut you off. You're good. Don't worry about it. I talk forever. I will, and believe me, I'll still talk. Go ahead. I think that it really kind of like sparked something, is the fact of, you said needing someone to help me get to that point. And I think that point looks like, at least for me, and I feel like a lot of women out there don't know how to reside in feminine energy. And what's that? That's new to me. Really? That's a new term, feminine energy? Your feminine energy. So the energy that as a woman you are intended to exude. The vulnerability, the trustworthiness, the caretaker. To be able to do all of those things, you have to have a man in your life that is taking care of the protecting, the fundamentals, the basis, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that a woman can take care of the children with the understanding that things will be paid for, things will be taken care of. The understanding that she can open up to you about past relations or future relations or current relations and not feel like she's invalidated, or expressing feelings of X, Y, or Z and not feeling like you're now feeling like you are being attacked, when in essence it's just her vocalizing her opinions and her feelings.
And I feel like for me, being that I at 19 moved out with $100 in my pocket and a backpack on my back and said, here we go. From that moment, I left my feminine energy. I became for someone to tell me in the past, oh, you're so independent, you're so strong, you exude such dominance and strength. It's just crazy that you've been through what you've been through. I used to take that with pride. I used to be so enthusiastic. Like, yes, I am. And now I've kind of gotten to a point where I'm just like,
It's
that's
dumb.
no longer flattery.
Sorry.
Yeah,
No, like,
it's dumb.
no kidding. Like, I'm no sorry, no offense.
There.
Like, it's dumb.
No, like, I don't want to be there. I want to be able to put my feet up at the end of the night
Right.
and know that I'm taken care of.
Right.
And I want to be in the presence of a man that I know that is going to come home from work, and I'm going to come home from work, and we're going to get our children, and we're going to be happy, and we're going to be taken care of. And it's not just going to be all on me. Mm-hmm. It's not just going to be, well, the house is clean because of me. The clothes are clean because of me. The bills are paid because of me. The children are fed because of me. Yeah. It's not, I don't want to live like that. That's not what I can do that on my own. So for a man to come into my life, you need to show me that I can step out of that. I no longer have to carry all of those responsibilities. Mm-hmm. And a lot of men in today's society become one of your children. They become another limb that you have to take care of. You have to feed them. You have to decide where you're going to go. You have to decide what you're going to do. You got to decide what you're going to have for dinner. How do you like your clothes folded? X, Y, and Z. When in reality, I don't want to decide all of that for you. I don't want to take care of you as my child. I want you to be my supporter. I want you to be my grounding. I want you to be that person for me so I don't have to be it for everyone else.
Yeah.
And I think that that's, what society is skewed as women taking power. And that's not at all what the intentional meaning is. So
I think there's a lot of women, a lot of music that is saying that women need to be that way. Right. Be independent, be strong, be all these things, you know how it goes. Like, F this dude, go get it on your own. Yeah. I think that's wrong. And I think men need to realize that women do want that from you. And we need to start putting men back on pedestals, as much as that seems wrong, or it seems like almost like just because a man is, I think a true, biblically, a man is supposed to lead by example and lead the family. Right. And naturally the woman follows. Yeah. Naturally. She's going to. Because if he has a good moral basis and faith with God, and he's following Christ, and he's following the way he needs to be to take care of, his family, to be kind, to be compassionate, to be all these things, and he leads properly, then the wife is naturally going to want to follow him. Exactly. Naturally. Like, yeah. She'll just see it. Yeah. Women just follow. It just happens. It's just what happens. Now, I still think that I don't think that men have been conditioned or been taught that, because if you look at a lot of people's dads, if you look at a lot of friends' dads, they're not good examples, or they're not there. Yeah. They're horrible examples. All they're taught is what we were talking about in chapter 7, which is probably what made you feel so moved, was, you got these guys that just think that we're conditioned by society, that we're supposed to just provide. We're supposed to just go to work, provide, take care of things, and then that's it. That's all a man's job is. But quite honestly, I feel like a man's job is to do those things, but also you need to learn how to be good with communication. Women are very emotional creatures. It's just known, right? Y'all are emotional. And it's good to, I have to watch my words, because you know how I'm learning through each show to watch my words, but sometimes Cedric comes out and just says it how it is. But learn how to correct, but not in the way of like what people think when you hear correction or checking,
Right.
but learn how to hold the person accountable and realize, like, you know, your person, like, okay,
Yeah.
what's going on with her? We need to lead this,
Right.
lead her out of her emotions, be more principled, and let's guide this conversation of what's really going on. Like, hey, look, and it's understanding yourself. Sorry, it's understanding yourself first, of your own tendencies, right? And looking at yourself of your own past, getting to know yourself, and then that's how you can help out someone else.
Right.
You can, like, hey, you know, I'm so sorry that you went through your abusive relationship. I'm sorry. I don't know why that happened, but hey, you learned something, you experienced something, and I know it's going to take a lot. This is what I want. And that's what men need, purpose, you know, and women should be a damn good purpose. But, you know, if you have, in your situation, you have a child, right? So that purpose should be the child that you want to, like, for your guy, what my suggestion would be is that, you know, my dad, don't have resentment towards his dad. Like my dad, I actually watched I'm Not Your Guru by Tony Robbins on Netflix. Yeah. It was beautiful. Cried like 3 times in it because it touched my heart. Yeah. And I called my dad and I said, and I was bawling while I was talking to him, and I said that I am sorry for ever making you ever feel like you weren't a good father, because you were doing the best that you could, and because of who you weren't as a father, and because of who you were as a father, is why I am the person that I am today. So thank you. Yeah. And I think a lot of people need to stop having resentment towards their parents and start realizing that everything you've experienced and who you are in your life, if you're above, pretty much, I'd feel like above, like, if you're our age, you know, if you're above 20, if you're at 18, it's really hard, because it's like, man, you're still brand new to the, you know, you're just,
I feel like it's like 22, 23.
Up there.
Kind of like 24 if you're a guy. Like,
yeah, when you're up there, it's time to start, you have to start realizing, like, you know what? It's not about your mom or dad anymore, and you can't be using that victimized BS anymore. Right. You know, it's like,
you've been presented with life. How are you going to dictate
even if they didn't teach you? Now you're in this world. Now you're in this life. What are you going to do about it? And how are you going to proceed in life? You got to find that. Yeah. And a lot of men don't find that. Instead, they, you know, with your guy, he would be 24, you know, like he has a kid at 24 years old. Yeah. Right. My brother was 16 whenever him and his girl were conceived at conception, and then they had the kid at like 17. So he was 17. She was a little bit older, but he was 17 when he had his first child. Right. Dude, like 17, you know, that's very young. And it turned his whole entire life around. He was not doing good things, and now it turned his whole entire life around. It gave him purpose. I feel like a lot of men need to have purpose in this life and need to figure out themselves and understand that women want that. You know, women want you to know, to be confident. They want you to know what you want, and they want you to go after it, and they want to be led as much as they act like they may not want to, but it's almost in a way of like, you know,
it's a defense to society.
Somewhat, because society is trying to say that y'all need to be equal with us. And quite honestly, like, how I see it is like, why would y'all want to be equal? Why do y'all want to go work?
It's not, that's the problem that at least in my opinion, which differs from a lot of people that stand in different shoes, is, you know, there's this equality, this massive movement of equality. It's been going on for years, and really, in my opinion, the equality is really just driving apart the family.
I think it is too. And it's like a competition.
It is. And at the end of the day, being a mom, having a child, if I had the opportunity to be told, hey, I'm going to go to work. You stay home with the child. And then when I get in from work, I'll give you a break. Go take a nap. Go do whatever the hell you want to do. That seems like a luxury, to not have to pinch pennies, to not have to find someone to take care of him, find a trustworthy source to take care of him, find someone that I can rely on so that I can go make the money to support my family, to support my child. And, you know, that's not at all the ideal situation. And even if it's in a relationship, you know, I'm married, yes, I want to have a hobby. I want to have things that I'm doing, things that I'm pursuing, but necessarily going to a 9-to-5, no, that's not necessarily how that I would desire for that to look. Now, 9-to-5 in my studio making art, yeah, sure. But I think that looks different for everyone. And so for everyone, that image is different. But
I think so too, but I think it's also knowing your standards. You know, like you said, you gotta know your standards. You gotta know what you want in life, and then you gotta learn how to express that to people,
right,
and express it to people. I think too many people hop into something without wanting to express that side.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is what I want, and the reason why they don't do it is because they know once they say these things,
there's a potential for them to leave.
Yeah, and so they
and they're scared to be alone.
Yeah, and they want someone there, and they BS. And they,
yeah,
or they find someone new, and it's like
run down the same rabbit hole.
It's a thrill, right? It's a thrill every time. It's like, oh, we're new. We could. Most men bullshit in the beginning, and they're good at it, and
everything that you want to hear.
Yeah.
Just to a couple months down the road, be like, actually, this is not at all what I want.
Exactly, and what the sad thing is that while men BS about it, women don't say what they need to say about what, because they
require
what they require. Yeah, they play the game.
Boat.
Yeah, they do the same thing. They won't say like, hey, you know, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I need, or whatever. You know, I'm not what, because they're like you said, they're lonely. They need that companionship or whatever it is that they're looking for. So it's a lot. I think it's a common thing of like, people need to start being more truthful about what they want.
Right.
It saves a lot of time.
But the only way to do that is to be more grounded in self. And I think a lot of people don't take the alone time with themselves. I mean, when I first started at my job, you know, we had to roll silverware. Like, that's just part of working in the restaurant industry. Your side work, you got to roll silverware. And I remember, maybe I started like the beginning of the year, and a couple months in, I got to the point where, you know, we were in slow season, so I would just go to a back room, bring a bunch of silverware, bring a bunch of linens, and just sit and roll by myself. I wouldn't be on my phone, because if a manager came in and checked, which they did often, I would get in trouble if I was on my phone. So every time I was just in there rolling silverware. Next thing I know, I'd have like 200 silverware stacked up, rolled. And of course, management coming in like, whoa, that looks nice. You did all that? But then when my coworkers would come in, it'd be a totally different atmosphere. They'd be like, what are you doing in here? Why are you doing this? Why are you alone? How are you sitting in a room alone with yourself? And I got to the point of just, you know, at first it was kind of like I feel like I'm in the wrong. Like, what did I do? Like, and then I kind of got grounded in myself in the fact of, I just like myself. I like my thoughts. I like divulging into and dissecting what my brain comes up with, because there's two sides to our brain. There's just like the little angel and the little devil. When you don't give your own self the attention that you require for yourself, the angel and the devil voices start to get skewed. They start to meld together. You start to not know what is right and what is wrong. And so when you actually sit in silence with yourself and hear your thoughts, hear your own processing, and understand, okay, I had this is what happened in my day, and this is how I responded. Now, do I align with that? Well, yeah, I do. I agree with how I addressed that situation. But could I said it different? I could have said it different. Yeah, I could have. I could have said this instead of that. Okay, well, so am I in the wrong? no in this aspect, but yes in this aspect. So you're getting to know yourself. You're divulging into where your standards lie, where your expectations lie within yourself. Because like I was saying earlier, you can't set expectations for other people. You can only set them for yourself.
Do you believe that you can do that if you had a partner with you?
Most definitely. Because I feel like, at least at the point that I am, I have the standards that I have set. I have those things that I know that I need. And I know that in order to entertain you in my life as that substantial character, you have to exude these standards. Do you have to meet them in full? No, because I know that whatever you don't fulfill, I will fulfill. Because right now, I fulfill everything by myself. So to have someone step in and say, hey, let me take that over, and let me take that over. It's like when I'm carrying a big tray, and I've got all these plates and all these cups, and I'm carrying it back to the back, and I'm struggling, barely making it. And one of the dishwasher or one of the bussers comes over and says, here, let me take this, let me take this, and let me take this. And then I keep walking, I'm like, oh, thank you. And then I keep going, and I see one of my coworkers, and they come up and they say, you know what, just let me take the whole tray. Just let me take the whole thing, and I'll carry it for you. It's like that. You know, you have these things that you carry, that you can carry, that you know that you can carry, but to have someone step in and say, hey, let me do that for you. Let me carry that for you, because I am more capable of carrying this for you than you are.
I hear what you're saying. I feel like there's some people, though, that feel like if they allow someone to carry
Then they
that
look weak.
for them, they look weak, or they feel like they're not doing for themselves enough.
Well, and that's where the problem lies of what society has skewed
On
your
men and
own-
women. Well, more or less on women.
Right.
They're pushing it on y'all.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing, well, I won't say beautiful, it's ugly, but I find some systems to be, I don't know, I wouldn't say beautiful. It's just like, it's like, wow, that's
It's
system.
beautiful in a dark sense.
It is. In the darkest sense, it's like, wow, you genius, evil, you know what, like SOBs, bro. Like, so what they're doing is they're, society right now is trying to make it to where y'all don't need us anymore.
Right.
You don't need men.
Right.
And that men don't need to work that hard.
Yeah.
See, the fact is that why men don't have to go, you know, bust their butt for a high paying job, whatever, is because they're pushing y'all to go work.
Yeah.
So now you got a double income versus the guy always having to go find or look for that better job or always stay for that promotion or whatever, try to move up. Well, no, you don't have to really anymore, because now you have like a little double income, or you don't have to be that knight in shining armor anymore.
Right.
He's got because you're working on it.
Yeah.
You know, you're trying to become
It's a double income. It's two of you.
Yeah, he don't. Society is funny in the sense of like it's literally pushing the men out of everything, and
really it's
you shouldn't.
devaluing the man.
You're devaluing us. Yeah,
Because
not you, but like society is devaluing
Yeah.
us so quickly and so hard, which is in return breaking up the family. See, a lot of people don't understand that division is the key. Divide and conquer. It's the oldest thing in the world. And they're just trying to divide and conquer. They're trying to divide our families, divide the man from the woman. They're trying to make you compete against us.
Right.
And it's just a world of you have to be, I guess, sound in yourself and know yourself to move through that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, really, it is a division of the family, because what that leads to is, you know, this is back in freaking 70s and 80s when people were pushing for this kind of thing, you know, that the spike in divorce rate was unfathomable. You know, it's
compared to now, it ain't nothing.
Right. Well, I mean, once women hit the workplace, you know, the spike in adultery and cheating and division in the family became absorbent. You know, divorce wasn't popular like that. Divorce wasn't a thing. People didn't do that. People didn't divide their families. But once women hit the workplace, things shifted, because now men and women were alone. Men and women had these designated times to be with men and women where they were not supervised, where they were not, you know, XYZ. And, you know, as much as I do give credibility to that depiction and those statistics, which are valid, it's also, you know, for me, I do agree with the fact that, you know, if you are a woman and you desire to work, go for it.
I agree.
Do your thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think to each their own.
Absolutely.
And, but for someone that does not desire that and does not necessarily have that drive to want to do that, it's extremely difficult to find someone, you know, as a female to a man or a man to a woman, to find those people that don't rely on that don't seek, hey, well, if I have a job, you better have a job. If I'm bringing home money, if I'm paying for this bill, you better be paying for that one.
It's all about upbringing as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it has a lot to do with, there's a whole lot, you know,
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's a lot of, I get it. It's a whole lot of standard. It's a lot of knowing yourself. And I think you do need someone else. I think everybody, I'm starting to realize that now. I think in order to get to where I need to go, I need to find that and understand that. And good thing I am on it, because I'm finding purpose. And I think that's what it is. You have to find your purpose of what the hell you want to do in your life. And what do you want to be? Because that's going to drive you to never bend, break, or fold or give up. Because you're like, these people depend on me.
Yeah.
It's non-negotiable. I have to get this done.
Yeah.
I have to. If you're pissy, and when I come home, you got about however long, because we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
We need
literally.
to, first off, we need to figure out through communication. Okay, when you get mad, try to tell people, and y'all can take this one for a gym. If you're with someone, whether it's in your family or not, whether if you have like with your family, or it's with your significant other or your girlfriend or whoever, work on a code word of when you're upset, because it's hard to say. It's easy to say, like, you know, hey, when you're upset, let me know. It's like, yeah, okay. Emotions are high, bro. I don't even want to talk to you right now.
I'm just gonna.
Yeah. So like, give me, even that, like, just give me and I say the funnier the word, the better, because it kind of loosens up the moment a little bit. But like, hey, you know, shenanigans, like, okay, cool. But understand what shenanigans means. Shenanigans means that I got 30 minutes or an hour to be as pissed off, breathe, get the hell away, go do whatever it is you have to do. But understand, within that time, you're going to come back and I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about this. And because although you are mad, you have to understand that I'm upset as well. I'm feeling off because you're feeling off, and we need to get this through. We can't go days, weeks, whatever, lingering this BS on.
Right.
And it's a lot of communication. It takes a lot of maturity of growth to get to that point. I think so many men hold women to this standard of, like, I don't know, relationships and everything is just, I see it all around me, and it's just so frustrating because there's just literally no communication. Yeah. As soon as somebody tries to open up about something, they want to judge, or they want to throw it in their face, or they want to throw the past in their face.
You did that to me, so that's why I made you feel that way.
Yeah. It's like, nah, man.
You're doing exactly what you did to me.
Right. Yeah. It's a whole slew of, like, okay, what's our goal? What's our purpose? What are we trying to do? If that's even our goal or our purpose. If you're going to come into my life, this is what is going to have to be. Like, I call them non-negotiables. I do not budge on these things. And what do you not budge on? Yeah. It's all an experience. I think with mental health, that's where with men, because it's all started with, like, you know, it's a conversation that y'all had on Christmas Day and stuff like that. It's like, well, you know, he needs to realize where you're coming from, hear you out, but then maybe stop being so surface level with you. And maybe he needs to dive further into you. Although you may be a open person, or you think that you're an open person, maybe there's more to that, which there always is.
But I think that also ties into mental and emotional awareness levels, kind of like what, you know, we kind of touched on earlier, but to kind of go back is just like, I feel like everyone, on a scale of 1 to 10, you have your mental and emotional awareness functioning levels of where you are. Everyone is functioning at, you could throw them on a grid of 1 to 10. Oh, they're functioning at a 2. They're 17, they're functioning at a 3. As you grow and you develop and you become your own, the more rounded you are in yourself, the higher that you grow on that level, and the more aware you are to function on those levels. So let's say, you're functioning at an 8, and you try to get into a relationship with someone that's functioning at a 6 or at a 5, and they're saying, look, I'm giving you my everything. Why is this not enough? I'm giving you everything. And you're sitting there like, you're giving me your bare minimum. You are barely meeting my bare minimum. You're sitting on the couch all day when I'm gone. Or I come home and you say you're going to come over, and I say, hey, will you pick up food? Yeah, what do you want? Well, you know what I want. Or
do they?
Exactly. Have you paid attention to me enough to know what I want? Things like that. And it's like, you reach a point of, at least with living with, my exes in the past, I developed an understanding of, okay, well, if I'm going to work every day and I'm coming home and you're sitting at home alone, why are the dishes not done? Why are the clothes not folded? Why are the clothes not at least moved from the washer to the dryer? Things like that. Why is the bed not made? You know that these are standards that I have set that you like as well, that you agree with. Why are they not completed? And then that spurs into fights, and that spurs into problems. And even then going into even further, well, I do this for you. I don't like cleaning up your food in the morning after you've sat and played video games all day and passed out on the couch, and then I come back, I wake up in the morning and I clean up after you. I put all your things away. Or you do XYZ and I clean up after you, or I make you dinner. I don't enjoy doing those things. I do those things because I care for you and because I want you to be taken care of, and I know that they mean something to you. And that's my functioning level. Whereas someone that's functioning at a 5 or a 6, and they're saying, I'm doing everything for you, and it's not enough. Well, because they are doing everything. They're doing everything that they're capable of, because for another 6, they would be like, oh, this person's giving me the world. They're doing everything. And yet for someone that's functioning at a higher level, they're not doing enough because they're not meeting those standards. They're not meeting that bare minimum of what you require because you're on such a higher plane.
Right.
And to meet someone functioning on a higher plane is very challenging. Once you get to the higher planes, it's like, wow, I'm standing on a mountain up here alone. And there's someone over there on that mountain, but they're really far away, and I can kind of wave to them and say hi, but that's pretty much it. And you look down the mountain and you see all these people that are kind of coming up the mountain, but they're really not there yet. And so if they throw you a ball, it's really not reaching you. And you're having to go down the mountain to get the ball to throw it back to them. And so you find yourself in these relationships with people that are functioning at lower levels, where you are now lowering your level. You're now coming down from where you are to meet them.
Yeah.
Because they are not capable of coming up to where you are, because they've not been there. You have been there. So you know what that looks like. So you can step down to those levels. You can be that. You could be that equal to them. And you can be that equal and then some. But they can't be that equal and then some, because that is their max. That is where they're at. And to be there with someone and then try to help them to grow, at least in my experience of being in a significant other relationship, when you are functioning at a higher level than what they are, and you are trying to help them grow, help them get to, hey, come see the view up here, there develops resentment. And it becomes more of a, oh, you're just better than me. You're just throwing it in my face because you're better than me. You feel like you're on this such higher plane. You bring so much more to the table than I ever could. And it's like, from up here, no, I'm not. I'm really just trying to get you to see what it's like. And I'm trying to give you the tools. And if you just take these tools and use this slingshot and shoot it up here, you would see what it's like. But that's not how they'll see it. And that's not how you being where you are, if someone on a, vibrating on a 10 is speaking to you, you're over here like, man, they're know-it-all. They just, da-da-da-da. So it's all in context of where someone is at in their life and understanding and having that grounding in yourself to know, I am here, you are there, and you're there. That's where I want to be. That's where I've been. But because I've been there, I know what it's like. And I no longer have this eating resentment or anger towards someone that's vibrating lower than I am, because it's like, I'm going to try and give you the tools. Whether you take them or not is really not my control, but I'm at least going to present them to you. And if you decide to take them, that's amazing. And I'm so happy that you're going to let that be fruitful to your life. But if you don't, that's okay. And when you're ready, please call me. Please let me know, because I want to be here for you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But in the interim, it's just kind of having patience and having understanding for people to know that, and I think that that's something that being a mom has really, really taught me. I can't tell you how many times a day I tell my son, let's work on our patience. Let's work on our patience. So much so that now he'll say, Mommy, patience. Mommy, patience. And because, he'll come down and he'll say, in the mornings, I want yogurt. Go straight to the refrigerator. Mommy, I want yogurt. And I'll say, okay, Mommy's, doing XYZ in the morning, getting things ready. I'll get your yogurt in just a second. Let's work on our patience. And, I think that's something that's really key, because today's society, especially with social media and everything, so much ready at our fingertips that we have lost touch of what patience looks like. And it's put a very heavy weight on self-progression and self-understanding, and not even just within the self, but within others, because we want things and we want them now. So to give you patience to get to where I am, to hell with you, I'm done. And that's not really how it goes, especially with, in some contexts, yeah, I'm a lot further along in this than you are. So I don't want to have to fix you or show you the ropes of how to do this. Go get a therapist. That's what they're there for. But for someone that is required to be in your life, family and friends, etc., you want to help them. You want to help them grow and learn those kinds of things. Now, when it comes to a significant other, there's only so much you can do, because if you try to do too much, they will resent you. They will build a rapport about you, because it's not just a family friend relationship. Even with family, it can be rickety too. But it's not just a friendly relationship where you're just helping a friend out. It's now you're better than me kind of thing.
Yeah, I've experienced that one, and that's true. I don't know if it's true.
Which side have you experienced it on?
I have experienced, so that's why I say I don't know if it's true, because because now you're asking me to make it a true statement, because I'm having to decide which side I'm on. I would say that I don't even want to say. I'm not gonna say, because I'm not sure if this person watches or not.
Fair.
So, but I would say that I feel like I'm typically on the side of wanting to put you on, like wanting to open your mind. I know my boy yesterday said, or like 2 days ago, I think 2 days ago, yeah, he said that I'm an emotional person and I don't like talk about it. That's not very true. I mean, I do know how to like articulate and get my emotions out and how to talk. I really, really do. A lot of the problem starts to bear with the other people.
Yeah.
A lot of people like to say that they like to communicate and they want to communicate, but I don't know. When you got somebody that knows and wants to communicate, it's really hard to, meet that. And it does take patience. And me, I'm not a patient person.
Yeah.
I'm learning to be, and I am a patient person, but there are times where I become very impatient and I just want it. Like
it's patience and context.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Like, I mean, like you said earlier, you made the point of like, you're in a fight and you're not agreeing. Mm-hmm. And, you're not about the whole wait a couple of days, wait a week, whatever. No. I mean, that is a different context. 'Cause like, I agree with that. I think that is a totally different context of patience, because that type of patience is when you're actually in a substantial relationship. And, at least for me, when I get into those relationships, I have that standard set of, if we are fighting, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to say, hey, this is what's bothering me. Mm-hmm. Are you mentally ready to have this conversation? And if you say, no, I'm not, I'll say, okay, I understand. I'm not going to force you into it right now, but it's 1:00 right now. So this needs to happen before the end of the day. Please let me know when you are ready.
Yeah.
And
Go
ahead.
No, some people feel like I've noticed, because I used to have someone be like that, where they wanted to talk about it and I was on the opposite end, and I guess I was at that bottom of that mountain.
Yeah. And
they did that to me, and all it did was made me more withdrawn.
Right.
And it's like, it's shitty. It sucks, because, you're caring for this person. All you want to do is make them feel better.
Yeah.
And get through it. But it's like, I don't think they're mentally, emotionally as there as they would want or feel like. They can't even draw themselves to even find an ounce of that. Right. And there's people who I know personally that are old or who are like that.
Yeah.
It's something I'm trying to figure it out.
I don't get it. I don't align with it.
People aren't truthful.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, one, I think it's comfortability. I think it's like you're asking them to be something that they, young or old, you're asking them to leave something that they have been and that they are.
Yeah.
And you're needing them to be something completely different. And they're like, well, like, no, you're asking.
But I mean, I've seen it in a lot of young people too.
No, that's what I'm saying. I just said that. I was like, there are a lot of young and older and young, but like a lot of young people, it's a fear of, it's not even fear. It's a fear of vulnerability, but it's also like who are you to tell me? Mm-hmm. Like, I know best.
Yeah.
I'm however old. Yeah. I'm an adult now. I do all these things. Or I work for myself.
They don't even know how to dissect the problem within themselves, so they're scared to even have the conversation.
Yeah, not properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't want to lose you because of saying something wrong or misinterpreting or XYZ. And that all just comes from not being grounded in yourself.
Yeah. And it takes experience. It takes a lot of experience.
Well, not even experience. It takes due diligence. Due diligence because, I mean, yes, experience does inherently tie to age, because the older you get, the more you experience. That's just inevitable.
True, but I agree with what you're about to say already.
It is. Yes, it is.
Due diligence.
It's due diligence in yourself, because you could be 16 years old but have done the due diligence to know yourself. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, your mind is going to change a lot, so let's switch that to like 18 or 19, 20. You've done the due diligence to understand and know yourself so well that anything that the world presents to you, any person that the world presents to you, you can divulge into that and know going into the relationship where you stand.
Yeah.
Whereas people that do not know themselves, they get into a fight and they're like, I need a week to process this. I need to step away. I need to take my time. I need to figure out what the heck is even going on here, because they're not grounded in themselves. You know, when you're grounded in yourself, you know your standards, you know what you expect for yourself, you know what you're willing to do, you know how you're willing to negotiate the relationship. And so when a problem arises, you take your time. Let's say, you know, look, give me like 30 minutes. Let me just breathe. Let me figure this out. Let me divulge my thoughts because I don't want to say anything that isn't going to align with myself.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to say anything out of anger and out of hurt. So
Yeah.
let me figure this out so that I can present to you what I really feel.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, that's why at the end of every episode I say love yourself so that you can go love someone else. The reason why I say that is because I think it's important when you go to talk to somebody, you need to ask them, how do you deal with failure? How do you handle failure when you fail something?
Right.
How do you handle something that is disappointing when you disappoint yourself? When was the last time you disappointed yourself? When was the last time you forgave yourself?
Right.
When's the last time, if they don't forgive themselves, or if they're not dealing with their past, or they haven't accepted their past, they're not going to accept you or your past, or when you mess up, they're going to hold that against you forever because they hold it against themselves.
Yeah.
And it's the saddest thing because it's like you need to learn to let go and love yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's the key. That's my favorite thing to ask people as I'm getting to know them is, do you love yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And then just sit.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time you sit in silence for a minute.
Yeah, but
like,
see,
you just sit there and they're just like, I don't even know. What does that even mean? How do I even respond to this? Like, are you is this a yes or no question? How do I, and it's like, it's whatever response that you feel like is adequate. Do you love yourself?
yeah, some people love themselves and they, no offense, shouldn't because of the sense, no offense, because of who you are is a piece of shit. You're a rude person.
But at the end of the day, but who are you to judge?
That is true. But
you know, if they feel like the person in the life that they are living is adequate and is up to par for what they want to do with their life.
This is true.
What do you have control over? Nothing.
Oh, that is very true.
All you have control over is your actions towards them. So all you can do going forward is show them love, show them respect for being a human being. Not respect that goes for family and friends and coworkers and people that you consider to be in your close circle. Mm-hmm. Not that level of respect. The level of respect that you receive as a mere human being. Because I do not align with you. I do not roll in your circle. I do not agree with the human being that you are. But I will stand in who I am. And you will not alter who I am because of who you are. Yeah. So I will continue to show you love. Yeah. Why? Because that's who I am. You're not giving me any love. Mm-hmm. You know, so many times at my previous location, people would say, you know, why do you still talk to her? Why do you still clean up her tables? Why do you bus her tables for her? Why do you water her tables for her? And it's like, because that's who I am. It has nothing to do with who she is. It has nothing to do with who he is. It has to do with who I am. Mm-hmm. And I'm not giving to receive, because my cup can be all the way full, can be half full, and yet I know what I'm willing to give away. Mm. I know what I'm willing to sacrifice. I know what I'm willing to say, here, this is yours. It's just like gifts that you give someone. I feel like a lot of people give a gift, you know, they say, oh, here, I gave you this, and you say, oh, well, I'm going to give you this. And it's like, well, my gift was way bigger than yours. Mm-hmm. You know, how is this fair? And it's like, that's not what it comes down to. What comes down to is the fact that you're trying to compare yourself to someone else's actions. And you shouldn't be doing that. Your comparison is solely within yourself. Your comparison, your validation needs to come from within, or you will never reach a point of harmony. Mm-hmm. You will never reach a point of peace, because you're constantly relying on exteriors to fulfill you. You're constantly relying on someone else to give you what you need. When you have what you need, you're able to give away what you're willing to lose. Yeah. You know?
I think when people do that and they go soul searching, they find it in substances and with friends. Yeah. It's natural. I know I did. And that was a hell of a wrong road.
Yeah.
It was. And I think people need to be careful, and I think it's true that they do need to, do all that. And it doesn't matter about the other person, but what does matter is what you do. But when you're trying to go figure yourself out, it's naturally you try to look around and gravitate towards like, okay, who are my friends? What are they doing, or what are they not doing? And how do I become who I am?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's your work environment that needs to change. Sometimes it's your
Friends.
friend environment. Yeah, you gotta start asking yourself, like, okay, is this person who I forget who says it. Well, Joe Osteen says it a lot. Look at your friends. Like in 5 years, where are you gonna be at? But like, if you want to know where you're gonna be at in 5 years, look at your friends.
Yeah.
If your friends are, I think he says, if your friends are going places, they have a spirit of kindness, excellence, courteous. If they have gratitude, that's what you're going to have too. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
Because, you're going to be trapped in that maze with these shitty ass friends while you're trying to find yourself. And it's just holding you back.
Yeah.
But like with, I have a lot of great friends who I've experienced in my life that have shot me to where I'm at.
Yeah.
Whether I talk to them still or not, they made me into this guy. Like, thank God to all the guys I used to be friends with, no offense, but like that weren't good examples back then.
Right.
Because they taught me on how not to be
Yeah.
towards my girl, or how to, what example to be. Even the men in my life that are around have taught me how to not be towards a woman. And how, I think that's the most important thing, is understanding, if you're trying to soul search, the easiest way, instead of trying to look for what you're wanting in life, I personally feel like, is knowing what you don't want.
Yeah.
It's the easiest way. Just know what you don't want. Know what you won't deal with. Know what you don't tolerate. Know what, and then that's gonna in return tell you what you do, right? Yeah. But I feel like so many people try to go after, like, man, what do I like? What am I this? What am I that? What am I? It's like, nah, dude. Like, figure it out. Do you like drinking? Do you like smoking? Do you like all these things? If you don't, then you need to look for that in someone else. Do you like it when somebody gets angry at you? Do you like it when someone doesn't communicate?
Right.
Do you not like it when someone does, like, so?
But a lot of these things that people like, those things that people don't like, they exude.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how are you saying that you don't like that, but you do it? But I think that's a draw within themselves. Is it's a projection of, I don't like this.
Because
I don't like when people do that,
Mm-hmm.
because they do it.
Yeah.
It's just like a lot of people turn out to be like their parents. The number one thing that they don't want to do is turn out to be their parents. And that's exactly what they do.
Yeah.
And it's because they haven't taken the time to just divulge into themselves and figure out, okay, hold on, wait a minute. Let me sit back and look at my actions. Let me sit back and look at my words and go through what I'm actually feeling. I was having a conversation literally before I left work earlier with a coworker, and he was saying that him and his girlfriend are falling out, and they've been together for a year, and they've just been on rocky terms. And he was telling me, he was like, I get sick and she throws it in my face. She says that I'm not doing enough, that I need to get off the couch and get up and move around.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I'm sick. Like, what do you expect me to do? Like, I have 103 fever.
Mm-hmm.
And, so all like other coworkers are kind of going off, and I waited for a pausing moment. I was just like, at the end of the day, if you feel so strongly about this, that you're coming here and you're speaking about it, and the light that you're speaking on it in, I think you really need to go home and really sit down with yourself and think about, really, if this is someone that you see in your future, and if it's not, why are you doing this? Why are you spending your time here?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you dedicating all of this energy to this person? Because it's not just energy that you're giving to them. Look at yourself right now. You're standing at work in a corridor talking about them to everyone else. So it's like, you're not only letting them take your energy when you're at home, you're now letting them take your energy when you're here. And that's only what you're reached a point of breaking and talking about it. So what's going on in your mind when you're not speaking about it is clouding you, is weighing on you. It's dictating how you're making decisions. And I feel like a lot of people that have significant others that are not in healthy relationships, which I think is extremely difficult to find, is they let it dictate a lot more of their life than what they realize. Yeah. And it starts to skew personalities. It starts to skew direction, purpose, the whole 9 yards. You know, you were talking about purpose earlier, and I didn't know my purpose. For the longest time, I was like, what is purpose? You know, I was like, how do you even find that? You know, is it through a job? Is it through a career? And it really wasn't until like 6 months ago, 8 months ago, I figured out my purpose. And that is being a mom. At the end of the day, it's being a mom. Like, I have all of these other things, which I call them my calling. I love to help people. I love to be there for people. I love to talk to people. I love to give people direction. You know, if you call me in the middle of the night, I'm going to be there for you, unless I have my son. Then I can't, because priorities. But my purpose at the end of the day is my child and is being a mother. That is my purpose. And as long as my life follows the path of exuding the characteristics of being his mother, then everything is okay. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with when it comes to finding your purpose. They feel like it needs to be a job. It needs to be something that's super impactful for the world, when in reality, your purpose isn't any of that. It's what God has in store for you, what God has to be your root for your foundation. And that for me is being a mom. That for someone else could be being an artist. That for someone else could be podcasts, you know, reaching out to people, being there for people in that way. That for someone, I mean, it's different for everyone, but it's finding what that root means to you, you know, and that could be your purpose is journaling every night. You know, it's not as heavy and weighing as people try to make it out to be. It's really just how you plan your life to be in it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that they don't have a skill.
Yeah.
I mean, you need a skill to have a purpose. If you don't have a skill or anything to offer, then
what are you doing?
What are you doing? You need to figure out a skill. Yeah. You know, figure out a skill. For men, it could be a trade, or like for me, it's not even a trade. It's just that I like talking. You know, I like talking about feelings. I don't mind having uncomfortable conversations. Right. I don't mind being vulnerable. I don't mind talking about my dirt. I don't mind talking. It's not even dirt. It's real clean. It's like my life. You know, I don't mind talking about these things, but you know, for some people, it's like, you know, they don't know their purpose in life, and they're old or middle-aged or young, whoever, and it's because you have no skill. Yeah. And if you don't have a skill.
But why do you not have a skill? Because you have not gotten to know yourself.
Yeah. To figure out what the hell do you like to do? What are you good at? Yeah. What do you think you're good at? You know, and go for it. And it's scary, but it's like, now you're living.
Right. Exactly.
Now you're living. Now you're living life, because you weren't living life before.
Yeah.
You know, like, and now you're living life, and you need God obviously to help you out with that. But that should be your purpose also, because I was actually talking to my grandpa about it. Right now I was talking to him, and I was telling him how, you know, my whole purpose is that the reason why I try to work out every day, not that I try, I do work out every day. And the reason why I do have these conversations and I am posting on these podcasts and I'm doing these things is because I'm doing it for his glory and for him. You know, I want him to say that, you know, that's my son, and I'm well pleased, because everything I do should be for him. Right. That's my purpose at the end of the day. That's my purpose. If you strip me completely fucking naked, I hate to say it like that 'cause I'm talking about God, but like, that's Cedric coming out. He's coming.
Not naked in a physical sense.
Yeah, no, it's Cedric being raw. So like, if you just strip me of everything, my cross, my tattoo, everything, you can't take what's inside set in stone in me. And a lot of people have this void in them that they have no purpose. If you want to have true purpose in life, find God. And God is there for you. Yeah. He's literally on the other side of the door. You just have to open it, and it's up to you to open it. And a lot of people don't want to hear it. And the thing is, it's not them that doesn't want to hear it. It's what's inside of them. Yeah. It's the spirit that has you lost. And, this fearful spirit, but it's not you, because everybody wants it. Everybody wants to be enlightened and have purpose. But there is this spirit that is in you. It is, if you don't have it, that if you don't have purpose, it's in you, because it doesn't. And if you have a problem with God, it's because somebody along the way has made you had that problem with God, and it wasn't them. It was the spirit that was trying to block you from what they know is on the other side of that fence. If you accept, and when you accept God, and when you accept, in our world, Christ, Jesus Christ, and there's a whole, you can't stop it after that. It's, you have purpose. You live for something that's not you. Your problem is that you're living for the world. You're living for money. You're living for women. You're living for men. You're living for cars, houses, and you have this void. My boy called me last night. He's like, man, I'm going to go home and watch Narcos season 3. Like, they're in Mexico or whatever. I think that's what he said. And he's like, it's crazy. This dude has all this money, all this stuff, and all this whatever. And he has this void. And I was like, he's lacking God. He's lacking that only thing that can fill that void is the truth. Right. But along with that truth allows you to start seeing the truth within yourself. It opens that spiritual eye of you. And that's a hard thing to come to conclusion with, that a lot of people like to make themselves think that they are this amazing and great thing. And honestly, you're not. Right. Even when you think you are, you're not.
You are what you are because of who you were created by.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're always continually growing, you're always going to be changing. There's always something different. And that's the remaining of humbling yourself. If you think you're great, and if you think you're the bee's knees, well, you're not growing anymore. Probably. Right. 9 times out of 10, you're not growing. You need to grow some more. You need to fix something in your life.
Well, growth is never ending too.
It's never. No. And like you were saying earlier, before we started, you asked me, how am I doing? Or, like, how have I been? And I was like, I'm happy. I'm great. I'm doing really good. Yeah. You're like, well, what is that? Why? Yeah. And then I was like, well, it's because, I'm enjoying, you're good. You're good. I'm enjoying my day to day. I know what I want in life. I know my purpose in life. I know who I want, what I'm going to do, how I'm going to get there. And I'm getting after it every day, and I'm loving life. I'm loving it. And you're like, well, it's not success that you're loving. It's the process. Right. And it's like, I'm falling in love with this process called life, this slow, patient, loving process.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. And it's beautiful every day. It's like I almost feel when I'm knocking stuff out, sounds so weird, I feel like there's a symphony or like violin or something playing in the background. It just feels so like poetic and so like it feels good. Like you're it feels like I'm working through the universe. Like I could feel it all like
just flowing,
laying the flow of like everything. And I'm like, wow, this feels right. I feel like I'm truly one with God, and he's one with me, and I'm being guided, and I'm listening properly, and I'm becoming the man that I need to become, no matter what people around me or say to, think, or I know what they may say. Like you said earlier, I'm doing it for me, and that's what people should do for each other or do for themselves. Yeah. And then it's our job to go help out other people get there. Kind of like with this, it's our job. I think it's our job. If that's the purpose, is I feel like everybody's purpose here is to go help out the people around you.
Spread the word.
Yeah, go help out people around you, because there are a lot of people who are mentally ill and sick, and we need to help them. And in return, it helps you because it reminds you of where you were. Like, I know you were talking about that mountain stuff, right? Well, it's good that we're up here. And yeah, we can give them the tools, and we should, but like not to where it drains your energy, because it does regress you when you try to too much.
Right.
But hey, man, here and there, like you said, when they need a call or whatever, you're there for them. But that's because it's our job. It is. That in itself is another purpose for life, is to assist and help other people, to not be selfish.
Right.
But be selfish because you need to figure out yourself.
Yeah.
But in the same return, it's a healthy selfishness. That's like I talk about narcissism. There is such thing as healthy narcissism, because I volunteered this past year for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But although I'm doing it for someone else, I'm actually doing it for myself.
Right.
Healthy narcissism.
Because you feel fulfilled
Mhm.
by filling the cups of others.
Exactly. So it's healthy narcissism.
Right.
But now, exactly, it is.
Yeah.
But it's not like I was just like doing it for pure pride and ego, like,
Right.
and boasting on,
Yeah.
social media, although I did post it to social media, but that was just to inspire people to possibly go do that
For
for themselves or for someone else. Like, hey, let's get out here and, help people. If you're on social media, you probably have the means to go help someone,
Yeah.
to volunteer your body to go do
something.
something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you don't have social media, then you're poor, and that's like legit poor. No, seriously, like that's legit poor, where you can't afford a phone or network or Wi-Fi or something to have that. Like, I don't think we understand the luxuries that like we truly have in this life, and we lack, and we're always looking at next best. And it's like, dude, squeeze the juice out of whatever the hell
What
you
you
got right
have.
now. Like, that's why I talk about like exercising. If you have legs, there's kids. That's my boy we were talking about last night. There's kids that he knows, a friend of his that has been blind for 6 years, who just recently got blind. There's a person who, there's people who can't have children.
Mm-hmm.
And then you hear these moms all the time complaining about, oh, I need a break.
Mm-hmm.
I need this and that, and rightfully so. But at the same time, realize that you have a child. You have someone there, and if you don't, at least if you don't have kids and you're alone, for myself, it's like, well, I have dogs, love my boys, find joy in that, and then also find joy in myself. Well, how do I do that? Well, I want to look good every day. I want to have a nice haircut. I want to have a nice body. I want to have a nice mind. I want to read another book. I want to learn some more knowledge, stuff that makes me feel better. Like, start finding things that make you feel better, fulfilled. It's going to give you purpose, and you're able to. It's just, I feel like a lot of people, I posted today, because I posted on it was a sound from a song. It's Les Brown, and he says that a lot of people want to complain about their situation. They like to complain about the situation, but they don't want to do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the realest thing ever. A lot of people like to say that, oh, I'm really looking for myself, or I'm searching for myself, or whatever. Actually, you're running from fear. You're running yourself into a corner, and you're talking yourself into a corner.
Right.
Now, you may be looking for yourself, but you got to get with somebody who is healthy that can get you to that state.
When you have to be mentally ready to be able to work with that somebody.
Yeah, you got to be mentally ready, because you're going to hear a lot of shit you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Because they're going to put you in a place where you're uncomfortable. They're going to ask you a lot of uncomfortable questions, and it's going to make you feel ashamed, and it should, because you're shedding an outer layer and becoming something new, and it's going to be terrifying because you're in new uncharted territories. And that's good. You should like that. You should keep looking for that. I think I posted the other day that said fear exposes what we are. How'd it go? Actually, I have it in my notes, and I'm going to say it just because I don't usually get on my phone whenever I'm on. This is my first time, so hey. Fear reveals where you're not free. Right? That's what I said.
That's a good one.
I was like, huh. And I thought about that, and I was like, okay, well, what am I fearing in life?
Yeah.
And I started thinking, I was like, okay, well, I attacked a lot of stuff towards the end of the year. Now what am I afraid of?
Attacked a lot of stuff.
I did. I had a lot of hard conversations. I had a hard conversation with my dad. I had a tough conversation, with my grandma. I had a tough conversation, with an ex. I had to let a lot of stuff go. I just had some difficult things that I had to do for myself. It wasn't
Right.
for them. It was for me.
Yeah.
And it's setting me free.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel free. And now it's like, well, what else am I afraid of?
What next?
and that's how I'm figuring out my New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
Is what am I afraid of? It's not a resolution of what I want to do. It's like, okay, what am I
It's
scared
what
of?
you're gonna achieve.
Yeah, what am I scared of?
Yeah.
Well, I'm afraid to run a marathon because that's a lot of miles. I don't know if I could do that. Well, let's write that down. I'm afraid of running, this or doing this. Let's write that down. I'm afraid of maybe starting this new business that I'm working on. And I don't know how people are going to take it, if people are even going to be interested in it. Okay, we'll write that down.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to attack every single one of these this year.
Right.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're no longer, and we're not wasting time. We're not giving yourself time because all that is just excuses.
Yeah.
It truly is.
I agree with that. That's nice. I like that. Writing down your fears so you can attack them for head on.
Yeah, what are you afraid of? Like,
What am I afraid of? Are you asking me?
sure, let's go for it.
Gosh.
Name one thing that you think you're afraid of right now, and it's already on your head. You just don't want to say it.
Oh man.
That's how it works.
What am I afraid of? I think
Mhm.
I don't know. Now I have 10,000 thoughts running through my head and I can't grab any of them.
Sounds like 10,000 things you need to go attack.
Yeah, really. No. Well, they're honestly like things I'm grabbing and I'm like, well, no. Honestly, I think the biggest thing is what I'm afraid of is divulging and giving my time to someone in the hopes of something being nutritious and fulfilling for me and my family, and it not being that.
Are you afraid that they won't give that to you, or are you afraid that you won't be able to give that to them?
No, I'm afraid that they won't give that to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm grounded in myself. I don't question myself. Like, I question myself, but I don't, when it comes to the context of where I am in my journey, that in questioning myself would be when things happen with others, like what their own perception is. And that's where I would become, okay, what am I willing to settle on here? What am I willing to divulge into here? And really, for me, the fear is not within myself, it's within others. It's within the fact of I don't trust society. I don't trust men these days. I don't trust their intentions. Even if a man tells me that his intentions are pure, I don't trust it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't trust it because I've been lied to. I've been taken advantage of. And, the past two people outside of my son's father have told me that their intentions were extremely pure, and turns out that the whole time they had a girlfriend. So
Funny.
that's been
Not funny, but funny how
Right.
ironic, like how that happens.
Exactly.
It happens often more than what you think.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of become just I'm gonna just do this life by myself. I'm gonna just vibe with me. I know that I give myself what I need. I know that I give my son what he needs, and whatever I can't fulfill for him, his dad will give to him. And so, the fearfulness of not finding someone that will ever meet the standards that I have set for myself and for my family and for my son, because at the end of the day, anyone that I bring into my life in that regard has to meet certain standards for my son.
Mm-hmm. Which is good.
Yeah.
It's good that you have that. Some women just take all kinds of kids around their kids.
No.
Or sorry, some
All
women take
kinds of
all kinds of men,
Yeah.
around their kids.
And I don't
willingly.
I don't let him be around anyone. I hardly even bring him around my friends. I'm very selective with who I let in his presence, because
And I just had to throw out there,
Yeah.
some men bring a lot of women around
their kids.
and it's like, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Stop.
Oh yeah, I mean, I talked to a guy
It's
and
embarrassing.
his daughter was from California, and she would come stay with him. She was 3. He didn't have a babysitter for her, so he would bring her to my house while he would go to work, and I would take care of her while he went to work. That was one of the ones that turned out he had a girlfriend the entire time.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, you're leaving your child with me when your girlfriend's
I think it's about being patient, honest, and open, and just digging. What I've learned in my experience in life is that people can't handle more than 2 or 3 questions being asked to them without without
feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah. You can
And
dig.
being like, ooh.
Yeah. They'll
doing too
they'll
much.
avoid, and once they avoid, that's when you know you're on the spot. You're
Yeah.
like, all right, let's keep digging, because you'll push them away. They'll move away. You don't have to send them away. They'll go away. They'll move
Yeah.
away. I learned that with cells, and then I learned that with practicing it.
Yeah.
It's like with kids, and that's how we were taught. It's kids. You tell a kid, you see a kid mess up, and they're like, they got a good lie usually at 1st, right? If they know how to lie,
Right.
they'll tell you, like, kids don't know how to lie, they just lie. But like, they figure out after they got in trouble one time, like, oh, I don't want to do that again, so they figure out a way to lie.
I didn't need it. The kitty cat ate it.
Yeah. There you go. So then it's like they lie to you, and they're like, okay, and then you're like, well, are you sure?
You got
Like,
chocolate on your chin.
yeah. And it's like, no, well, okay. And then they're like, all right, well, I'm gonna learn from that. The brain learns.
Yeah.
So then you keep. So in regards to men, I always I used to tell my mom, like, because she's, they're divorced, and I would tell her, like, hey, look, if you got a 45-year-old guy, that is divorced, or if he's divorced, there's a reason. If he's single, there's a reason. So figure out that reason. If somebody is single, no matter what age, I feel like there's a reason. Figure that out. If they have been with someone, you gotta talk about their past. How was this last relationship? How was that? How'd you handle this? How'd you handle that? I feel like you do. I feel like people who don't want to talk about their past is because, one, they haven't looked at themselves, and two, they just don't want you to, because they know that it's just, they just don't want to have that. They don't feel, they're not comfortable enough with themselves to be like, yeah, I messed up.
I went through
I was
this.
actually a horrible person. I was bad.
Yeah.
My first girlfriend that I ever truly had a girlfriend. We dated for 5 years, and I was young. I was like, I don't even consider, I mean, it was a real one, but like, I was 15, dude. I was asking my dad for like Valentine's Day money. You know what I mean? Like, hey, like, that's not really.
I need to buy her some flowers at Kroger.
You feel me? Like, can you take me? So it's not like that wasn't as real, because I mean, it was real as we got older, right? But it wasn't like paying bills and all that stuff, like what goes on with like the reality. It was adult relationship. Yeah. But with her, I had messed up, because I didn't mess up, but like there was like these girls being funny and fishy, and they were mingling with my relationship. But what happened was that I was texting about a friend, and I'm just was being like, I know how to be honest about, pretty much what I'm trying to say is that, like, you're honest about what you've gone through, and you tell it to that person who you're talking to. And if you're not hearing that from them, and they're always saying that, yeah, she was like this or she was like that, and they only lightly brush up, I had my faults too, but it's like, okay, well, what faults did you have? Yeah, what faults did you have?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I called her this, I called her out of her name, I hit her a couple times, I did this. I was like, oh, well, that's a lot, but hey, you're being honest, and now it's up to you to decide.
Yeah.
Are you willing to, well, what have you done since then?
Right.
You got to figure it. It's all in context, but it's just like, but if they're not saying that, and they don't want to go into deeper, like, and even when they give you a response, keep asking, well, why did you hit her?
Yeah.
Because I bet you can get some rage out of that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and then you're not looking for that rage, but it's like you're looking for
to see the response of how they are now.
Yeah, like, did you
because
really?
That's what's substantial.
Yeah, did you really learn from what the hell you went through?
Yeah.
And how did that feel? And then you also get to, now that you're getting more intimate, you're getting more deeper. So it's like, well, that's, yeah, you're getting deeper. So that's good. That it's like, yeah, it may be uncomfortable for them, but if this is going to be your partner, you need to know that deep, dark hole that they're in. Like, that you need to know that side of their mind where it's like, yeah, I was a completely horrible person. I feel for her. I tore her life up. I feel sorry for her. It is what it is. I've apologized to her. We've addressed it, but we know we can't move forward on it.
Yeah.
But it has made me who I am today, and I am learning from it. I'm trying, and I am looking for something that, whatever it is. And that's just a scenario. But it's just like, a lot of people aren't willing to be that vulnerable, open, and honest, and it's causing a problem in relationships.
Right.
It's causing a problem, and they're just going to continue this shit until someone just finally doesn't ask and accepts them for what it is.
For what? Yeah.
They're going to keep bouncing
the
around.
Mental level that you're at. Hey, I'm here too. Let's stick here together.
Yeah, and then it's that couple that lies to each other.
Yeah, and that's the prime example of the toxic relationships that a lot of people have.
It is.
And then they come in and they're talking about it. Oh, he did this, and oh, he did that, and it's like, well,
So
what did you do?
Yeah, and you also sound stupid because you're in it.
Yeah, you're sticking with him.
Yeah,
you're going through it. And then 5 months down the road, oh, he did this again. I'm like, why are you still with him?
Yeah.
Why are you still in this? I don't want to even hear about it. Like, I don't even want to talk about it no more. Like, I've said my opinion. I've told you. Now I'm just drained.
It's draining.
I'm done.
It's draining, and I just wish people would be much more healthier with themselves because, and honest with themselves.
Yeah.
Learn how to ask yourself tough questions. Learn how to
stand on your ground.
Yeah. Well, find a ground first.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah. Like, find your ground.
And have, like, self-respect.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, people so much so rely on, which is where a lot of what we're talking about is rooted in, self-esteem. Their self-esteem is so unbelievably low.
Because they talk dirty to themselves. They're
right.
like, they talk so negative and horrible to themselves.
Because that is what is internal. Like, you're the way that you speak to, well, I guess, okay, so, like, your self-respect is internal. No, your self-esteem is internal. Your self-respect is external. What you allow people to do to you is external. You
actually teach people how to treat you.
Exactly. And your self-esteem is within you. That's what you have control over.
Right.
If your self-esteem is significantly low, your self-respect is going to be significantly low, and you're going to let people abuse you.
Correct.
In all kinds of means. But if you build your self-esteem, you know who you are. You're grounded in who you are. You're confident. You're in a healthy way. Exactly.
Not in a negative way.
Not in a negative way.
Because people can get really carried away with it and
you don't let your ego take over.
Yeah, and very prideful. Yeah. And I'm, this like,
I am the be all end all. Not in that aspect.
No, in a healthy way.
Yeah.
That you're good for the people around you. That people want to be involved in your life.
Yeah.
They say good things behind your back.
Right.
Not negative thing. And people are going to talk mess, but
they always do.
But it's just for the majority of the people, they say good things.
Right. Well, the better you are, the more people are going to talk about you.
This is true.
The more negatively people are going to talk about you, because that's the more the devil wants to encroach onto you. Because wow, you're more grounded in your love and self-preservation, and the Lord is really shining through you. Let me attack you.
Right.
And he's going to use all of his little minions to do such.
Yeah, or whenever you're getting attached to somebody who is godly, he'll come at you real hard.
Oh, yeah.
Because he wants to pull you away from that.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people do cave to it.
They do.
A lot of people that are spiritual and have their direction cave to it. Mm-hmm. And it's sad to see because, it happens all the time. And it really, for the person that gets driven away from the relationship.
1 second. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Seen something.
The person that gets driven away from the relationship really, in my experience, it loses their connection with the Lord.
Yep.
They don't have that anymore. They don't know what that looks like. They don't know how to maintain that anymore.
Yeah, because they don't want to lose that person. So they lose that side of them. Yeah. It happens. And you got to watch that. And
then they eventually lose that person because that person is still trying to be
a part of the world. Exactly.
Still trying to be, I'm talking about the person that has caved to the world.
Correct.
No, I'm talking about the person that hasn't caved to the world. That's the other partner in the relationship that's like, whoa. Like, I am connected to the Lord and I do want this. And this is the love that I want to exude. And then you have the other person on the other hand that's caving to the world with it. Well, then they lose you. And they lose their connection to the Lord, even though you both started on the same path. Mm-hmm. Well, one took the upper route, one took the lower, and then this person is left feeling very alone. And so is this person. But this person, when the spiritual path looks down, or not looks down, but looks at someone that has walked away, a lot of times people feel like, oh, well, they're getting everything. they're receiving, you know, this new job promotion, these new friends, these new family, da da da. But that's what the devil wants you to see.
Yeah, they're really not
He's
happy.
gonna bless them.
Yeah.
Bless them. And I saw this video the other day about how there's two sides of a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've got these famous people and these rappers and these billionaires, millionaires, whatever, that are being blessed every day for doing awful things, terrible things. Those blessings aren't coming from the Lord.
No.
They're from the devil.
Absolutely.
And they're skewed to make you think that they're coming from the Lord.
They're blinding you.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're
to
giving
make you think, oh, well, if I do that, then I'll get that.
You're getting you're getting pimped out by the devil.
Pretty much.
Because
yeah.
he's like, hey, he's basically saying like, here, take this little bit of you know, this little something, this little fiend, and get the hell on, and it gets you through your days for however many years or
Pretty
months
much.
or whatever.
Drugs.
Yeah, straight up. So for some reason it's saying we're gonna have to wrap it up. I know I hate to do that, but I appreciate it. Thank you. It was a good conversation.
Very good conversation.
Any last remarks?
Yes, my ball that I was going to drop.
You're gonna do that now.
Yes, I am. It's very short and sweet and simple.
Go ahead.
So, you know, my name is Sydney Aspen.
Yes.
I go by Aspen now.
Aspen.
I do.
Love it.
You go by Sad, I go by Aspen.
Hey, check it out.
Sydney's my past self. I love her. She's beautiful. She's been through it. But I am now Aspen.
You know, Aspen. All right. Well, it was good having you on, and I appreciate it. It was a good conversation.
Very good.
And we'll see where it goes.
Agreed.
Cool. Thank y'all for watching, and love yourself so that you can go love someone else.